friends, and welcome to another episode of Unsolved Ramblings. I am your host, Danielle. If you are new here, I ramble and speculate about unsolved missing person cases as well as unsolved murders. I started this podcast because true crime has always been my passion, but most of all, I started this with the drive to help someone. I want to help the loved ones of the missing and the murdered by sharing their stories in hopes of bringing these families closer to some answers. Before I dive right in, I'd like to state that I am not an expert and that this is for entertainment purposes. All of my information comes from sources that have been published online. They are all linked in the description of this video. Today's case is about a missing man entangled in a love triangle. Jeramy Burt went missing from Boise, Idaho, leaving a young daughter behind and vanishing into the night. What happened the night Jeramy disappeared? Authorities are still trying to piece together that puzzle. Jeramy Carl Burt was born on June 18, 1973, to Van and Cheryl Burt. Growing up, Jeramy's parents described him as an energetic, fun-loving boy, full of spirit, outgoing, and very sociable. Growing up in American Falls, Idaho, Jeramy was diagnosed with ADHD as a young child. In high school, Jeramy found ways to be productive with all that energy by running track and playing football. After graduating from high school, Jeramy funneled his energies into the United States Navy, where he served our great nation in the Gulf War for 6 years. During his service, he had the pleasure of being able to visit the Persian Gulf, Japan, and Australia. Jeramy came home from the war, got married and divorced, started a roofing business, and had a beautiful daughter. From the outside looking in, it would appear that Jeramy had everything going for him until he all of a sudden vanishes into thin air. On February 11th, 2007, at 10:30 p.m., Jeramy asked his father Van to watch his daughter Mackenzie because he was going to go have dinner with a friend. Jeramy also stated he was going to go visit with another friend to talk about possible hunting grounds for elk. Jeramy was an avid hunter. He loved to be outdoors. Jeramy never made it to either friend's house, and he never returned home again. Let's go ahead and dive deeper into who Jeramy was before he went missing. While Jeramy was in Japan during his service in the U.S. Navy, Jeramy met his first wife, Raina. The pair were married in a ceremony on a naval ship in Japan, and once his service was over, they returned to the States. Back in Idaho, the marriage quickly fell apart, and Raina moved back to Japan. Only separated, not divorced, Jeramy would go on to meet and fall in love with Kim George. Most of Jeramy's family stated that Kim and Jeramy had a very passionate relationship, a lot of ups and downs. Kim stated in interviews that she loved Jeramy very much. When she first met him, she knew she would love him for a very long time. At first, the couple starts out in Pocatello, Idaho, but quickly learned that Boise was where they wanted to be to start a new chapter in their lives. Boise offered a lot in the way of work for Jeramy. He started his own contracting business, repairing and replacing roofs on houses. Quite a lucrative business adventure for the pair. They end up buying a house in Boise, and everything is going well. David, Jeramy's cousin and best friend, says he can remember back when Jeramy and Kim first met. They were absolutely smitten with each other, stating that Jeramy fell for Kim, hook, line, and sinker. In late 2001, Kim learns she is pregnant. They were both so excited. Being that she's now growing a new life, Jeramy decides it's time to marry her. But first, he needs to divorce Raina. Jeramy and Kim look through the yellow pages and find an ad for a lawyer. The couple hire Jeannie Braun, a family court and divorce lawyer. Jeramy and Jeannie begin spending a lot of time together discussing Jeramy's divorce. David stated in interviews that Jeramy was infatuated with Jeannie from the start, that Jeramy always had a thing for well put together women, and Jeannie appeared to be just that. Soon after Jeramy and Kim hired Jeannie, Kim had a miscarriage. Jeramy and Kim were devastated. Jeramy was so sad. His mother said that he wrote a poem about the child he would never get to meet. She said it was absolutely beautiful. In May of 2002, Jeramy's divorce is finalized, but he still continues to see Jeannie. Kim so desperately wants to believe that Jeramy and Jeannie are just friends, but she isn't 100% positive. In hindsight, Kim stated that she should have known before they got married that something more was going on because Jeannie had begun buying expensive gifts for Jeramy, taking him out to dinner on several occasions. By the time Kim and Jeramy got married in August of 2002, Kim is 3 months pregnant. Jeramy's brother Shane revealed in interviews that after the ceremony was over, Jeramy told Shane that he wasn't even sure he was ready for marriage, just felt like it was the right thing to do with the baby coming soon. He continued to see Jeannie. 7 months later, baby Mackenzie arrives. From the moment Jeramy looked into that little girl's eyes, he fell for her. Cheryl, Jeramy's mother, stated that Jeramy would call her his perfect little angel. However, not even the birth of his daughter could sever the ties between Jeannie and Jeramy because he continued to see her romantically. 3 weeks after Mackenzie is born, Kim finally admits to herself that Jeramy is having an affair, and she confronts him and makes him move out of their home. Before Kim and Jeramy reach their 1 year anniversary, they are divorced. Jeramy continues to see Jeannie and Kim both romantically, keeping the love triangle intact. Despite being unable to remain loyal to one woman, Kim stated that Jeramy was a very devoted father. He absolutely loved his daughter. Jeramy couldn't go one day without being with Mackenzie. Mackenzie was the most important thing in Jeramy's life, according to him. Jeramy's relationship with Jeannie Braun ended abruptly when Jeramy took the stand and testified against Jeannie in front of a grand jury in 2004. Jeannie had been charged with forging a judge's signature on some court documents in a child custody case, influencing a witness, and destruction of evidence. According to Kim, after Jeramy learned of who Jeannie really was, he devised a plan to make Jeannie pay for what she had done and came crawling back to Kim to make amends. Jeramy told Kim he was going to continue to see Jeannie to get her to confess to him while he recorded these conversations secretly. Those tapes were the damning evidence to convict Jeannie. Jeannie was sentenced to 1 year in county jail and 14 years probation. According to Kim, she and Jeramy were on the path to reconciliation when Jeramy went missing. Van stated that once Jeannie got out of jail, that Jeramy and Jeannie were still seeing each other, and that Jeannie would often bring Van and Jeramy lunch at the job sites in the months leading up to his disappearance. But at some point, Jeramy had asked Jeannie to stay away. It's now 2007, and Kim and Jeramy are living in an apartment with Van, Jeramy's father. They were trying to make their relationship work to the point that Kim was even looking into getting her ring back. Mackenzie had been the glue that held Jeramy and Kim together because they both wanted to be great parents and get along for her. On Sunday, February 11th, 2007, Kim left Boise to go to Vegas for a week-long seminar for work. Jeramy has traveled to and from American Falls to visit with some of his family members who still reside there. Once Jeramy arrived back in Boise, he contacted Kim to make sure she had made it to Vegas safely. Kim stated that they talked briefly, that everything seemed fine. Because Valentine's Day was coming up, Kim was trying to convince Jeramy to take her car and come visit her in Vegas for the day. Jeramy stated that he just had too much work to do in the next few days and that wasn't going to be possible. According to Van's statements, Jeramy came home, got on his computer for a while, then got dressed up and said he was going over to a friend's house to talk about possible locations to elk hunt, and that Van would have to put Mackenzie to bed. Jeramy walked out of his apartment, got into Kim's car, and drove away. On Monday, February 12th, Kim is wrapping up her first day of classes. She has been so busy she has not had time to check in with Jeramy. She had just walked into her hotel room when her phone rang, caller ID displaying Jeramy. Kim answers, "Hey babe," but the line disconnected. Kim attempted to call Jeramy back and it went straight to voicemail. She never received a call back that evening. Not really giving the call much more thought, the next day, Kim was continuing with her classes. When around 2 p.m., Kim received a text message from Jeramy stating 4 words no woman likes to hear: "We need to talk." Kim was unable to answer the text at the time, being in the middle of her classes. By the time 5 p.m. rolls around and Kim gets a chance to answer the text, she has 17 more texts from Jeramy. Kim stated that the text started with, "Goodbye, Kim. Good luck with your life. I'll come get Mackenzie later. Don't contact me. I'm leaving to start a new life." To Kim, these text messages are completely random. Kim texts back hoping for an explanation, and after a period of time, Jeramy replies and the pair continue to text into the evening. Kim starts to wonder if the person on the other end of the phone was actually Jeramy. He is not the type of person to text. Jeramy would usually just call and say what he needed to say, especially when it was something important like this. Kim decided to call his phone. He finally answered after several attempts. Kim pleads, "Jeramy, please don't do this." She then hears a large sigh before the line disconnects again. Kim is so confused and devastated. Why is Jeramy refraining from talking to her? Does this have to do with Jeannie Braun, she wonders? It's not adding up. Kim doesn't understand how Jeramy could be turning his back on her again. She's heartbroken. Kim decided to call Van, Jeramy's father, to check on Mackenzie and to ask, "What's going on?" Van is confused. He thought when Jeramy didn't return the next day that maybe he had just gone hunting or for a hike to clear his head, as he often did. When Kim relays the messages, Van is stumped, thinking there is no way he would leave that little girl behind. Unsure of what to do next, Kim decided to contact David, Jeramy's cousin and best friend. If there was anything out of the ordinary going on with Jeramy, David would know. When David learns about the text, David too is dumbfounded. He had just seen Jeramy over the past weekend in American Falls, when Jeramy came for a visit. He seemed fine. Jeramy and David met up on Friday the 9th in their hometown for beers and they played cards. On Saturday, they went to a different bar in Pocatello, but Jeramy wanted to go somewhere else and talk. David was waiting on someone, so Jeramy left on his own. Now on the 13th, David learns that Jeramy is sending these random messages saying he is leaving to start a new life somewhere else without his daughter? No way. Just no possible way. Jeramy's family all try to contact him. This is so out of character for Jeramy. Some of the other 17 text messages that Kim received were very personal. Jeramy used to always ask Mackenzie how she got so cute, and Mackenzie would reply, "Because my daddy made me this way." That was in one of the texts that Kim received. Jeramy's family all felt the author was definitely trying to convince Kim it was Jeramy writing those messages. Kim finally returned home from her trip to Vegas. When she gets there, she soon realizes her car is missing, and Jeramy's not there either. On Saturday, February 17th, 2007, Kim contacted the Boise Police Department to file a missing persons report and a stolen vehicle report. At this point, Kim still believes that Jeramy left her. She at least wants her car back, figured this way it would be found. Because Jeramy supposedly told her that he was leaving to start a new life, the police do not initially investigate into Jeramy's disappearance. Back at home, once Kim has settled back in, she realizes something is not right. Jeramy left everything behind. His computer, hunting equipment, clothes. Things once again are not adding up. 1 week after Jeramy went missing, his family members meet with detectives in Boise. The authorities want to learn more about Jeramy. They want to know if someone could have done something to him. What does he do for a living? Who does he hang out with? This is the moment the authorities make the connection between Jeannie and Jeramy's role in her arrest and conviction. This gives the authorities the motive they are looking for. Maybe Jeannie has held a grudge. Authorities learned from Van that Jeramy and Jeannie had still been seeing each other, so that didn't make sense. The authorities wrestled with the theory that maybe Jeramy did leave. He was not very good at managing his money. According to his mother, authorities said maybe he left due to his financial issues. His mother disagreed completely. He wouldn't have left over that. For Cheryl, the moment of realization came at Mackenzie's 4th birthday celebration, 1 month after Jeramy's disappearance. She knew then that something bad had happened to Jeramy. He would not have missed her birthday celebration if he could have helped it. With the last text Jeramy sent and no evidence of foul play, the only thing investigators can do is speak with the people who knew him. Finally, on May 18, 2007, the authorities catch a break. Kim's little red car that Jeramy drove off in is found 100 miles south of Boise by some cowboys in a remote area of the Bruno Desert. The car had been burned out. There was absolutely nothing left but the frame. The authorities find the location of the car to be very strange. It is so remote that it would have taken some difficulty to drive the car to the location. And when it got there, it was damaged. There was no way it was driving back out. The investigators even had a hard time driving down where the car was parked in their SUV. There had to have been someone else there with whomever left the car there to drive that person back to civilization. It appeared to investigators that the car had been torched deliberately. The police conducted a ground search in a 3-mile radius spanning from the car. Nothing. No clues to help Jeramy's family and friends locate him. The authorities are now suspecting foul play and started working on building a case for Jeramy. They pulled phone records. They found between 10:30 p.m. on the 11th up until the 14th, Jeramy made 36 phone calls on his phone. The majority of them were to his own phone number, indicating that he was checking voicemails. All the other calls were for mere seconds up to a minute, indicating that he dialed a number then hung up before it was answered. One call in particular stood out to investigators. This call was placed from a gas station in Mountain Home on a payphone. The call lasted 6 minutes. The only issue is there were no surveillance cameras on the parking lot towards the payphone, so the authorities cannot tell who was using the payphone. Police checked Jeramy's bank records and they found an ATM withdrawal right after he left his home in Boise. The last transaction was 90 minutes later at the same gas station the payphone call was originated from. Problem is, Mountain Home is only a 30-minute drive from Boise. No one can account for the 1 hour of time between the two transactions. The friend Jeramy was supposed to see that night says that he did receive a phone call from Jeramy, but he didn't answer it. When the friend attempted to call back the next day, there was no answer. The authorities have interviewed anyone who knew Jeramy or who was involved with Jeramy in any way. They have performed countless polygraph tests, but the Boise Police Department will not release the results of those tests. Police questioned Jeannie, and she claims to have not been involved with Jeramy after she was released from jail. Jeannie did agree to take a polygraph test. However, the authorities have not released the results of those tests either. Jeramy's friends and family, along with investigators, are stumped. No one has any idea where Jeramy went or where he could be. Jeramy's mother, Cheryl, is very adamant that he would not have left his life to start a new one without his daughter. She believes someone did something to hurt Jeramy, and that is why he has not come home. What do you think of this baffling case? I've said it a few times. In the world we live in, how does someone vanish from the face of the earth, never to be seen again? Did Jeramy drive the car into the ravine and had someone else there to pick him up? I find it unlikely. The call to the payphone in Mountain Home, Idaho, the location of the payphone is not far from where the car was found. I'm thinking someone drove the car there, called whoever had Jeramy's phone, and called for a ride. While I was doing my research for this case, I found that in July of 2016, almost 10 years after Jeramy disappeared, Kim George, who had since remarried and had another child, unalived herself. The circumstances surrounding her unalival are unknown. I also found some other interesting information about Jeannie and another missing man, Aaron Barnhart. Aaron Barnhart was also one of the witnesses that testified against Jeannie at the same time Jeramy did. Aaron is also missing and has been missing since December 4th, 2004. Aaron went missing after he left his home to have dinner with a friend. Circumstances surrounding his disappearance are interesting to say the least. Aaron was dating a woman whose best friend was none other than Jeannie Braun. Aaron and his girlfriend and Jeannie and Jeramy had all attended a mutual acquaintance's wedding together. Do you think both disappearances are connected? My theory is that Jeannie did something to Jeramy for the betrayal of testifying against her to send her to jail. Jeramy Burt was 33 years old on the day that he went missing. He has brown hair and hazel eyes. He stands at 6'2" and weighs less than 200 pounds. If you have any information regarding the whereabouts of Jeramy Burt, I urge you to contact the Boise Police Department at 208-570-6290. That is going to wrap up today's case. Thank you again for joining me. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. go ahead and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date when new episodes release. And remember to ramble on.